Mugbook, Chapter 3. Maybe you love naked nocturnal helicopter rides. It was my first one, and my skin scrunched, shrunk. My muscles and veins went crazy, making me look a tiny bit fit. Shivering made me look weak, though. The undying thing, maybe, compensated. I hoped so, anyway. The growing light from the skyline shoved its way into the chopper through the pilot's windows. I recognized it. They brought me home. Kind of them. Jill didn't get to come home ever, though that dawned on me. Surely someone besides me needed to know of her death. Her cat was at my place. Needed fed if I was going to disappear. Someone needed to feed Jinx, but no one knew yet about Jinx's owner. About Jill. How much of her still stuck to me? I felt sticky in spots, smudges, and shadows on my skin. The mud. Some of it had to be her, still. The rest of it was me. A crust had formed up my nose. I smelled earth and metal. She could be hidden in the folds of my ears, too, bits between my teeth, likely. I wondered what a blacklight scan would show. Point-blank human combustion had made me an accidental cannibal. A thing I couldn't unbecome. Something I couldn't change. Monk to human combustion. Mugbustion. Tears formed in my eyes while the joke sat inside me. She and I used to joke about everything. If I'd exploded, I'd have wanted her to smile huge, even if she had bits of me stuck like spinach. You can either laugh or cry, Jill used to say. The facts remain. I felt a sway and dip. We had to be descending finally, after what felt like decades of awkward eye contact with everyone else. Didn't help being naked. The mug was weird too, just sitting there threatening to kill everyone. Maybe they thought I'd make the chopper vanish, make us all take the can we fly test. A hard thump and we landed. Chopper door slid open, letting the wet, cold rush in. It was raining. I hadn't noticed on the flight. Half the soldiers slipped out fast before I could process. Chopper blades whipped the wet everywhere, making dancing mist. My body retracted from the outside world. I pulled my limbs in, covered my guy bits. Lasers coated me from outside and in, though. I fought to get my limbs listening and obeying me. I have to follow, I guess. Even if they took me straight to hell. A twinge of hunger rumbled in my guts, reminding me I was human. I recalled a rushing storm overtaking Jill and I during a picnic, earning that same sort of uncontrollable chill in my bones. A park bench back then became our hill to die on. We sat, resisting our calling cupboards, to exist out in nature, even as it spit on us. Our basket was dripping from the bottom, the insides soaked. Numbness returned fast as I came back to myself. My skin raged against the cold, telling me that this was different. Solid nausea came to steal the hunger, forcing me to focus. Rain invaded every crevice and curve, fold I had. Maybe even washed Jill away from my ears. The chill was harsh and constant. She'll never text me cold facts again. We'll never sit around ancient white Christmas tree, shouting carols, wear those adult footy pajamas, watch scary movies. Jill and I would never drink again, I realized, or whisper away the night on my risky fire escape. Watch movies, make love. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't, not yet. My limbs woke fully now, shivering and seizing as I moved. I got my body working, got to the edge of the chopper, the soldiers backed up as I planted my feet on the rooftop. Like I could kill them by standing up. Maybe I can. I just don't know how yet. Following the front half of the team was easy. There were a ton of big guys in black all going in the same direction. Blonde Doom was at the helm, nearly hidden by them. That gave me no comfort. We walked straight forward to an oversized elevator door, and it opened as we stepped close. It dinged like a normal one. I stifled a laugh at the sameness of their world and the one I'd lived in all my life. We stepped inside as if it were a metal mouth. Dirty tile floor, stainless steel walls. Again, samey. There was an order. Half the soldiers in the blonde, then little old me in the center, then the rest of them holding me in. All masks turned at me as if I were a patient zero. Maybe I am. Mug dementia outbreak. Coffee ito ergo sum. I laughed at my stupid Latin. Inside, of course. I worried that the rest wouldn't get it. Our feet almost touched, but the team all kept a few inches of wet tile between my toes and theirs. I could smell blonde smoke residue. Someone else's blunt residue. Surprisingly, garlic and onions on someone's breath. Maybe hot sauce. Those smells seemed human in a surreal moment, as if they were like me minus a few bad days. Then reality struck deep. Inward. Homeward. These were maybe humans. They weren't friends. My friends would never see me again. I wasn't me anymore. I wasn't free. Might not be again. That became clear when the sliding door between nature and me clunked shut. Something grated, hissed. A suction sound came. The box sealed tight and the air tasted funny. These weren't normal chopper military kidnappers. In the tight confines, the funny-tasting air, they seemed even worse than old me's nightmares, worthy of even more wrenching terror. Then the oddity of the day became all of me. This tiny square hell was my whole new life. The city I'd been glad to see was gone, different. I was not at home. We all stood frozen, awaiting freedom of some kind or another, hoping, just like normal folk, that we don't fall to our deaths because of cable-related incompetence. Someone somewhere forgot to renew that little certificate on the wall that day. I looked around, peering over the wall of human flesh. I didn't see one of those little certificates. Maybe they're a government cover-up. This is all about elevators. Knew it. We descended. I waited and waited, then more. This box had to stop, right? Eventually, all elevators did. I reflected on my horror for a bit, killing time, waiting. We'd slow and jerk to a stillness any second. I knew that. Then I'd find out what horrors were coming my way, my long-term fate. We didn't stop, though. That elevator went down for so long that I knew I'd lost my mind. That or this box was taking us to a very literal southbound hell. Stuck in an elevator that never stopped, surrounded by people who hated me. Sounded like hell. Seconds turned to minutes. My worries grew limbs and learned to walk. In that time, the part of me that loved ghost stories and urban legends wanted details. How far down, how fast we were going. That little kid in me woke and smiled. The rest of me wanted to weep down onto the scarred tile floor. I swished my foot a few inches, feeling the grime. Traditional. Gloves tightened on all guns around me, audibly warning me. Was it worth risking my life to know if the grime was grime. Finally, we began to slow, and the kid in me got excited again. Secret labs? Military secrets? The doors opened normally. We exited out onto a thinly carpeted floor. The group formation didn't let me see a lot. I was almost getting used to the entourage, as if I were being protected from something else, something worse. Them, a crack team of specialists, warriors. Me, an asset in an alleyway, fearing sniper fire. I just wasn't carrying some briefcase full of secrets, though. It was a mug. A mug of death. All around me seemed normal, not so different from the business offices we've all seen. Wildly disappointing. We crossed an average-sized hallway step by step. Carpet was varied shades of gray in a splash pattern to prevent showing employee spills. Blah walls, eggshell something maybe. Ceiling wasn't the lowered tiles I expected. More open, you could see the pipes running all over. Wires grouped by zip ties. I wondered what we were doing there for all of 5 seconds. Contemplated the floor's styling. We stopped walking and I heard another ding. We'd walked from one elevator to another across the hall. My guts dropped into my knees. How far down can a human go, anyway? The official answer was less than 8 miles before the gravitational pressure, yada yada, turned anything man-made into a lump of wet metal, you being the wet part. Unless that was fiction, widely accepted nonsense, and this was the hidden reality. This, the elevator that went deeper than facts would ever cop to. Or I was exaggerating the length of the elevator ride and scaring myself. I never faked facts on my website. I never made stuff up. Something's wrong. The door opened and the blonde stomped in with her arms out. She turned, eyes still wet, and told our posse to send me in alone. Her eyes gripped me, her hand still holding that gun. Her gun, my murder weapon. I hated the plan right off, but I didn't get a vote. Just him, she said. They all stepped back one, making a tunnel of warrior that wasn't letting me go anywhere but down. With her. Stiff jab from something cold, likely a silencer with a loaded rifle attached, sent me stumbling into my box. My brain stomped the gas, terrified. Joking or serious wasn't easy to grasp. I guessed what they'd do to me if I got to the bottom, and the blonde was missing, replaced by red goo running down the walls, dripping from the ceiling. Would more people come and kill me? Gun me down until I stopped getting up, or bring flamethrowers, acid, whatever it took. Surely some genius in this secret, whatever, had the key to pick my mortal lock, end my life. For a moment I pondered the idea of immortality, then changed the wording. My immortality. Real, grisly, painful, and mine. Is this even possible? Blonde Doom's eyes stayed stuck on me. I noticed a blot of blood on the surface of one of hers. This time, burst blood vessels inside of those eyes. Not a great sign of health. Her glare told me I'd really wounded some part of her by still existing. Part of me wanted to be sorry, to say so. I also wanted to make fun of her head wounds, long, wide shape, ask if her skull had PMS often, toss off a bit of blame at the secret soldiers who'd taken me hostage, stolen me from my own life. I wanted to hate her for shooting me so much, so often. It dawned on me then. They'd let her driver's body sit inside the chopper, just a bag on the floor. Blonde Kallion doom was with me now, not with him. He was still zipped up, growing colder by the second. Same with Jill. Nothing much they could do besides wash what's left of her down the drain, hoping it didn't clog. Doom and I are both single. Puke rolled up my throat, the biological cost of thinking an awful joke. Not a good time to ask for her number. Maybe at the funeral. My head shook itself, concerned about the words popping into my head, the ideas, images, what I'd begun feeling about the blonde and Jill. About death, the idea versus the reality, the thing I'd seen and felt inside my body and my mind. The guys she'd lost lingered in my skull, and I hesitated, unsure if I should say anything. Horrid or kind, I wasn't sure what words would fall out of me. I pressed my lips together, trying to keep my mouth shut, both literally and physically. Nothing made sense, and everything hurt. Maybe she'd understand that feeling, this new, scary place I was stuck. She knew more than me. They all did. What had I even done? What was I becoming? They never read me my rights. Makes sense if I don't have any. Why would I? My pressed lips forced their way into a smile. The box began moving. It was silent almost, nearly intimate, except for the whirring of machinery. Her gun and my mug existed together, harmless but ready in a tiny Cold War. Her breathing was quiet. Me breathing so softly I was getting dizzy, afraid to make a sound. I was trying not to lure her eyes, her simmering hate, for something I didn't mean to do. Killing her driver was like killing Jill. Horrific, but accidental, right? The mug's out of control, doesn't she know? I can't really control it. Part of me screamed that wasn't true. The coffin lid and the body bag both did my will. The mug made them obey me, made them go away. I tried to shut that thinking down, isolate the voice that wasn't mine in my head. I'd been an okay person, imperfect but decent. I didn't deserve her. This. The box had just enough room for one of us to try something stupid. We were waiting for a reason, trying to hold ourselves back. I was, at least. Sort of. She gripped her pistol like it had stopped me this time, and obviously we both had doubts. I was hunching over, trying to show my sorrow, my yellow belly. I didn't mean to do any of this, earn any of this attention, much less the hate rotting her insides out. I was tired of her wishing evil on me, hating me so hard I could feel it across the box. I never contemplated murder before. I didn't want to, ever, before. Yet there. Just her. I felt the cold creep down into me from somewhere else, the chill sliding through my limbs like enemies through intentionally opened gates. I was there. She was stuck with me. One of us, yes, had reason to be terrified. My hand twitched, thinking about it, of course. Barely a shiver, but it was visible. Her eyes darted. Hands and body moved in a fumbling flash. She was fast but unstable, falling back against the wall, trying to raise the gun while dealing with the motion of the box and her heavy brain trauma and buckets of blood loss. Personal loss, too. I barely caught the sight of the pistol moving before I felt pain, barely felt the pain before my shoulder smashed into her face, bouncing her head off the wall behind her. The mug touched her handgun, and it was gone, missing from reality, like she had left it behind. But we were different people, different in power and place in the world. One point blank pop and left a little tunnel in my leg, a hole in my limbs meet. It had been loud, terrifying, sure, yet this time I'd managed to witness something. My life. What's wrong with me? Who's this me I'm hearing now? She leaned back against the wall, eyes devoid of hate, empty of anything human, empty of focus. A bit of her even leaned into me, helplessly off balance. Gone from her body. From that close-up, I could see her skull peeking through the blonde strands. I could smell the bleach they'd used to clean this elevator. That, or it was in her hair, and I was just that close. Close enough to do what I joked about. Painting my box with her. She likely couldn't sense much. Her eyes were nearly crossing as I squeezed her against the wall, leaning, pressing in. Her air was almost gone. I'd heard it leave. Her hands were dangling, knees nearly buckled. She likely couldn't sense much. Her eyes were nearly crossing as I squeezed her against the wall, leaning, pressing in. Her air was almost gone. I'd heard it leave. Her hands were dangling, knees nearly buckled. She'd taken so much brain damage, it was a miracle she could stand at all. I'd just tacked on another concussion, too, when I'd rammed into her. I fought getting distracted. The blogger in me wanted to wax philosophical and contemplate the cost of power. Having dominance over the reigning champ of Earth, humanity, I'd transcended. Evolved. Was I going to kill her or not? This was the moment. The choice was mine. The weapon in my hand. I spoke something close to my words, but different. Maybe it was just confidence, me speaking from a place of winning, dominance. I didn't mean to kill him, and I'm not killing you, get me? Hey, wake up! I leaned in hard, fast, hurting her on purpose, trying to bring her back around. Her head lolled upward, as if she was waking from a dream. Then her limbs jerked up, almost resisting, trying to. Surprise came across her eyes as she wheezed against my neck and chin. She needed to breathe, and I didn't need to kill her. Not yet. I'd done enough. Hey there, I'm letting you go now. Leave me alone. Tension appeared on my wrist, and I pulled away fast, confused. What? Was she trying to touch the mug? A sound drew my attention, along with a familiar feeling. I looked down, careful to keep her in my periphery. Handcuffs. 2 pairs now hung on my wrists. Only one had existed before. She cuffed me while I was telling her I was letting her go. Kinky. I turned the mug between my wrists and locked eyes with her, made sure she wasn't losing sight of me, what I was becoming, what I had become. The cuffs became nothing, left the world silently. She didn't speak or move, not at first. She held out well in the face of impossibility till she couldn't. She took a breath in like it was offensive, a crime. I stepped back, looking down at my leg. The hole she'd given was already gone, or so small I couldn't see it. She stared, gun gone, her authority gone with it. With no way to kill me, she leaned gently back against the wall, fighting to stand. Her hand crept up her body in slow motion, rising to cover her mouth, like she didn't know about me already. She didn't believe it. Mumbling found something meaningful, I'm sure. She's actually afraid of me now. Me, ugly kid, high school weirdo, college web geek, lucky with picking restaurants and making women laugh till now. Doom still hated my guts. She was just too afraid to go hand to hand, which made sense. She'd felt her fingers lose grip on the gun, felt the weight of it vanish from her hand. Reality had changed because of the mug and me. Maybe we're star-crossed lovers, I thought. Too confused to laugh. The world spun, but I had no choice but to stand tall, to look tough, still naked, helpless, except for the weapon. I locked eyes with her again, seeing her for what she was, my murderer. Former. Someone willing to kill me before even asking what my name is. Someone willing to kill me without telling me hers, too. Informal in her hatred. That has to make murder easier, huh? Seeing me as anything but human. A worse thought came. I'm still human, right? I'd lost Jill, died, but that didn't matter to her. She'd sidestepped my need to understand anything, my right to be alive. My survival likely meant her trying again, but smarter next time, more prepared. Her panicked face wouldn't let go of my eyes. She'd kept on with it, killing me. Her hand pressed so hard against her mouth that the blood had left the skin in lines around her fingers. Part of her was tanned blonde, the other bits milk white. Finally, she'd begun crying. Wasn't sure exactly when. Those tears were my fault in every way. I just couldn't help her stopping them. Swung my hips out and began to sit. I positioned the mug between the two of us, maybe as a threat or a sign, I don't know. Me sitting, her standing. Time doesn't exist in this box. Death either, huh? Life, too. It's just us, just me and her. I wanted to know her, hear her name from her pale mouth. Knew I'd get spit if I asked. Doom and I, spending quality time. The elevator finally slowed, stopped. The door clicked and the air changed. Tasted way different. Fear darted through me like a cold wonder, the contemplation of killing her now, leaving me. For that short window, those few seconds, I'd had blonde Doom at my mercy. She'd been right there, cross-eyed, bled nearly dry. She'd been in my hands. My free one, anyway. Perhaps instead, she was in the mug, at the mercy of it. Whatever it was. My miracle, the only weapon I had against this mad brick wall of a world I'd slammed into with my mouth open, smiling wide like an idiot. The door dinged and opened. My eyes didn't leave her, hers didn't leave mine. Outside was a little hallway, concrete walls and ceiling. Not much higher than the elevator door, not much wider than our gloomy little box. Hall was unwelcoming, to say the least, but so was quality time with blonde Doom. We'd reached the basement of whatever this place was, whatever it did. It was likely here. The heart and soul of it. The meaning behind the facade of a skyscraper. Maybe this place housed secrets, living nightmares. Whoever owned the world, maybe. I don't know. Fear kept me sitting and no soldiers rushed in. No one rushed anywhere. It was silent for the second. Things seemed frozen. The universe broken. Are you two coming or going? Voice, sing-song, sweet, kind. I can call more soldiers or we can go together. Blonde Doom speaking with a tone less hateful than I expected. Surely a thing I'd never hear again. With the mug still hovering between us, I stood again, slowly looking at Doom. I let it dip towards my leg. She didn't try anything, and I didn't either. We walked off the elevator and onto the concrete, my toes curling at the chill, wild cold darting up my feet and into my legs. "Wish I had your shoes," I said. I had had hope that she'd laugh, smile even. Her face stayed frozen like my feet. She said nothing back, and I reset my expectations. We walked down the little corridor towards the kind voice, together but apart. All my life I'd believed in this exact place, this space around my body. I'd just been too terrified to find proof. Concrete knowledge means people come for you, least of all in the comments section. That moment explained to me. I liked finding shreds of real-sounding stories, third-person accounts for the website I made a little money off of. This was real. Guns and body bags, skyscrapers, choppers, too expensive to be pretend some prank. Jill cost too much to lose, obviously, but I didn't have a time machine to go back and get her. I didn't. Yet. Maybe I can borrow theirs once we make friends.